Let's just take a second. Okay, I'm stopping the transcript. Right, let's do this. Thank you so much for that, guys. Thank you so much. And it's going to be well. It's going to go well. I have to believe it's going to go well. So, yeah, what we're going to look at tonight is the difference between leadership and management. Let me ask a silly question. Who prefers to work for managers? Who prefers to work for leaders? Who prefers to work for managers? Why would you prefer to work for a manager? Thanks, Fanaz. Leaders all the way. Why? Why leaders? I see a couple of leader answer. Why leaders, guys? You can unmute yourself and tell me. Why leaders? Leader, I see more leaders coming through. Very cool. Leader, nice. Why leaders, guys? Why leaders? Again, more leaders coming through. That's pretty cool. I often think that when I ask that question and people post this answer, is that we have a romanticized view of leaders, because leaders essentially is about vision, and it's about change, and it's about the future, and it's about creating an environment where people can be fantastic. I think not all leaders can manage. I think we have to accept that. I think not all managers can lead, but certainly not all leaders can manage. We need to remember that. Okay, leaders lead by example. So it's that walking the talk. Okay, it's the idea of vision, Lucas, that you like managers. They have a greater vision and they have this sense of where we are going in the future. And then obviously it's about synergy and it's about motivation and it's about creating an intense excitement around that individual. There is a definite romanticized view of leaders. Somebody made the comment earlier that leaders can manage. Give me examples of leaders who couldn't manage their way out of a cardboard box and needed assistance. I mean, and there's one person that springs to mind, and I'll share that in a requires person. It's a personal thing. Well, yeah, I mean, some people view him as a leader. I don't view him as a leader. Um, and I think it's about inspiration, and we look towards leaders for inspiration. Okay. And it's not always about the job. So for me, the one leader that always stands out as somebody who was a wonderful visionary, who was amazing at creating the most perfect, ideal future for his company and its impact on the world, is Steve Jobs. I think we know that Steve Jobs was fantastic as a leader, but as a manager, he was completely useless because they are two separate functions. In the ideal world, you're able to do both. I want to see push to inspire, set to vision. But guys, can I just say, when you listen to your description of leaders, can you see how it is a romanticized view of the role? And I want a bit of honesty here, because if you read it, it's this like utopian, amazing individual that walks on water and inspires us and creates an environment. Is it not just romanticized? I think it is romanticized. Okay, now I'm going to ask the question differently. When would you prefer to have a manager and not a leader? When would you prefer to have a manager and not a leader? When is it ideal to have a manager versus a leader? I'm going to give you a second. You guys are typing. I'd prefer if you just unmute yourself, because obviously anyone can be a manager. I've worked with some really useless managers in my life. That's it, Kavian. I think sometimes managers will put in place the mechanisms to get the work done. A leader is a visionary, will create this ambitious future that will inspire us. But there's a lot of building blocks to get us to that vision. And the reality is that's where you need managers. In the ideal world, you have a manager who is a leader and you have a leader who is a manager. If it depends on execution, you want a manager because they'll tick the boxes and they'll make sure that things are carried out. It is about day-to-day operations. That's exactly it, Tandu. It's that building blocks thing, getting the steps in place so that we can achieve our vision. So I'm going to talk about the evolution of where we came from and where we'll end up in terms of future of leaders. Oh, it's a wonderful definition, Lucas. You work with a leader and you work for a manager. That is a cool blimmin' definition. I might steal that for future classes. Actually, I will steal it for future classes. So I want to look at how the world has evolved. Okay. Whoever is joined now, mute yourself, Chris. Somebody who knows, not even Chris. Lebahang, mute yourself.
My laptop thought that.
Okay, sorry, I'll mute. Okay, guys, so I think if we quickly look at where we've come from and how initially the focus was on leadership, not was on management. So in early days of research around getting the work done, not much was done around leadership. There was the impression that leaders are born and nothing can be done to teach somebody who's not a born leader to be a leader. So the focus in initial research was about getting things done. And when we think of getting things done, it is about managers. I think in the early days, and now we're looking 1900s, when the steam engine in the late 1890s as part of the Industrial Revolution, and we talk about the first moving production line in terms of Henry Ford and what he had done from a management perspective. There was a lot of research into how do we make an employee as efficient as a machine. So the belief was that if we train you, if we give you standards, if you practice the training you receive, you will be able to work as a machine or very similar to a machine. And the belief was in order to get people to perform, you need to control them. And so control systems were put in place. Very, very narrow jobs. If you were there to put the bolts onto a car, that's what you did. You didn't do more than that on a car tire, at least. When you get a moment, guys, we still see the evidence of this. And when you're on YouTube, and it's difficult to run YouTube because everything is too slow through the internet, just watch the fastest pit stop of 2025 in Formula One. So in a pit stop now, it just is about changing four tires and getting people going. Any ideas on how fast a team of trained mechanics and who practice like athletes, who eat like athletes, who exercise like athletes, can change four tires? And those of you who watch Formula One will tell me the answer. 1.8 seconds, guys. No, it used to be 10, it used to be under 10 seconds was the aim because it was really about then you used to fill up with petrol. I think the current record is 1.8 seconds. It's a bit like going to your own petrol station and asking people to pump tires. Yeah, no, that was sarcasm. It's about 2 seconds. And that's what training does. Please do me a favor, those of you in particular who don't watch Formula One, and remember, the first race is this weekend for the 26th season. Not that that matters, not all of you will watch it, but please watch for the pit stops. Go on YouTube and look for the fast pit stops. It is insane how quickly those things happen. And it's the consequence of this kind of time and motion study and practicing narrow jobs that could take us there. From there, we saw other focus elements around improving what employees can do. No real focus on leadership research. Again, the belief was that, oh, wonderful. Thank you, Mohammed, for sharing that, superstar. The belief was that leaders were born, you couldn't train them to be leaders. Essentially, we need to worry about managers because managers need help. So here we had the Gantt chart. Those of you that have done project management will recognize the Gantt chart, and it really is still used today. The scary part of this is that this is technology, and I'm using the word technology loosely there, that is over 100 years old. Anyone here involved in project management? Anyone involved in project management? Or if anyone studied project management, I promise you, you would have had a Gantt chart. I recently helped one of my colleagues at Maritzburg, who was doing a project management qualification, to assist her with doing a Gantt chart. It is still being taught as part of project management. Every project manager lives and dies by a Gantt chart. And Kyle, do you guys use Gantt charts? Or do you use similar types of tracking devices in terms of different things? And oh, you have to, boy, it's part of your life. It's part of your life. From there, guys, and this is also just to show you how much foresight these theorists had back in the day. And it is the 6 primary functions of management. Now, we know that these primary functions have changed: forecasting, planning, organizing, commanding, coordinating, and controlling. What do we know those as? Planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. These theories are over 100 years old, and yet in still some shape or form, we are still using these theories. Henry Fayol was a management genius. Again, this is more than 100 years old, this stuff, guys. And you can see his views on the world. Any comments about those views on the world, guys? What of those can we still use nowadays? Which of those? Which of those are relevant? Which of those are irrelevant? Which of those are relevant? Which are irrelevant? Okay, let me make it simple. Depending on where you work, all of those are relevant. Or if you're very lucky, few of those are relevant. And I'd like to hear whether that makes any sense. Which are relevant, which are irrelevant. So if we look at the first one, whose company is still divided between marketing and finance and operations and supply chain and what other things are there, HR management, etc.? They sound good. And again, some of your companies will use all of this. You know, companies sometimes have the attitude that managers think and employees do. So authority goes to the higher levels. 11, what is that? Equity. Absolutely. That's the dream, hey, Liam? If you work in modern organizations, very few are relevant. In particular, those organizations that are light on their feet, those flexible organizations that adjust very rapidly in terms of the external environment. Okay, I'm going to chunk there. Oh, sorry. I'm so sorry.